From finding love to getting married, a recent study from the Journal of Marriage and Family found that same-sex couples have happier marriages than their heterosexual counterparts. The study shows that this is mostly related to the traditional expectation of gender roles within a marriage. Same-sex couples are more likely to create their own rules around task sharing within their relationship, and they're more likely to openly discuss sexuality. What do you think about this? Does this track?
Interesting. Well, first of all, I just love the big cheers for same-sex marriage. I was really lovely. I mean, I'm in a same-sex marriage. My wife and I have been together for 21 years now. Yeah. And I think that, you know, that the dissatisfaction that comes out of like not sharing chores or about gender expectations, I think anecdotally, at least for us, that holds out. That we didn't go into our relationship thinking that there were going to be certain jobs or tasks or work that was mine or hers. So I think that it doesn't mean we don't fight. It doesn't mean that, you know, we don't have power struggles over chores. I think it just means we don't carry the baggage of external expectations about who does what job.
Would you also argue, if I may, because before the struggle for same-sex marriage to be legal in Canada and around the world, but I'll talk about Canada, that was hard fought over decades. And so is there something to be said for something that you had to work so hard for to even be seen as legal in the eyes of the law, that you would cherish it and treat that union maybe differently than others who are like, could get married, could not get married, could get a divorce. It's not so hard. In other words, the struggle made you value the marriage maybe differently.
I absolutely agree. I think that's a great point. And I think the other side of it is having to create relationships outside of like legal norms and legal rules has also meant, I think, that for a lot of same-sex couples, you have to be more creative in what your partnership looks like. That before gay marriage was legalized, you had to figure out, how do we cement this bond? How do we find support for one another? If my partner goes to the hospital, will I be able to visit them in the hospital? So how do I create networks of support? And how do we create relationships that work for us? So I think it's both the hard-fought side of it, but also having been shut out of marriage for so long, we have to be creative in thinking about what our domestic relationships look like.
Love that.
I love that.
Marlene on Facebook wrote in and said, it goes by who you are as a person, not by sexual preference. I've never met too many married gay couples having 60-year anniversaries yet. Well, that's probably because, as we said,
it's only been legal since the 90s.
Right. No, I think 2005, actually. Also, most people aren't gay, so how do you even compare? I wish best for any couple, gay or straight. Okay, I mean, I think it does go by who you are as a person, but I think there are some interesting things, both the fight that has happened, but like the struggle and how that bonds people. What I find very interesting from my gay friends is that they've also had to talk about sexuality in a different way and be much more open about those kinds of conversations. And I think this is what you're hinting at as well. And I think that is something that we should look to, like more and more, like straight marriages are kind of crumbling a lot of times. And I think some of that comes from not really openly and discussing or thinking about who you are. And I think a lot of my gay friends, they had to think a lot about who am I, what do I want, what are my desires, what do they look like, how do I articulate that? And I think that there's a lot to be learned there. What's interesting about this article, though, is that they say, even though women's same-sex relationships often generate a lot of intimacy, according to the article, they consume a lot more energy and can generate more stress. And then they say that this helps explain why lesbian partnerships, despite their high average quality, have higher breakups than gay male. And that's been my experience with my friends. I've seen more of my female gay friends break up. I will say that, again, this is all anecdotal, than my gay male friends. And I don't know. I'm curious if you have any thoughts about that.
I mean, certainly serial monogamy is a thing in the lesbian community. So having, you know, bonds and then breaking up. I also think staying friends with your exes is a real lesbian thing. So I think there's also the experience of, if you go to like a lesbian party, you will be introduced to so-and-so, and that's my ex, and that's my ex, and that's my ex, and that's my ex, and that's my ex around the table.
Nothing wrong with that.
So, yeah. So I think that part of it is, and I say this with, women can be a lot and intense in their emotions, and two women together can also be really, really, really intense, and that can burn out. But I also think that can also morph into a friendship, or where two women get together and realize, you know what, maybe this was a friendship all along. Maybe we weren't meant to be together. And so I think that there's a more ability, perhaps, to turn a relationship that's not working into another kind of relationship and have that work.
It's such a good point. One of my closest friends was in a lesbian relationship for a really long time, 20 years, I would say, and has just separated from her partner. And it's interesting because it feels like we're going through the same things. I'm going through a separation as well, Rachel, and so it feels like we're going through the same things. And I'm thinking, people are people.
Yep.
The stuff that she shares with me and I share with her are very much the same. They're very much the same.
Yep.
Yeah, there it is.